We have a special edition of the Auburn Daily Show here. I'm Zach Blackerby, and that is Auburn Elvis. And you are in Ocala for the national championship tournament for college equestrian.
That's right. Down here at the World Equestrian Center, one of the premium venues here in the country, and yeah, it's a perfect spot to have the national championship.
And of course, Auburn is one of the 8 teams competing for that national championship. Real quick before we preview the bracket and Auburn's path to potentially winning another national championship, Auburn Elvis, how did they get here? How did they get to this point?
Well, this was a bit of a transition year for Auburn Equestrian. We have a new head coach, Jessica Braswell. Greg Williams, who basically has been the head coach since the program was started, he stepped back into the head coach emeritus role where he basically just helps out wherever he's needed. But Jessica Braswell has basically been the associate head coach, or really the head coach in waiting for years now. She's taken over the reins fully. And this season was not without its ups and downs. Auburn got on a 5-meet losing streak, which is very uncharacteristic for Auburn, but they rebounded really well here in the last month. They won against Texas A&M at home, and then they went into the SEC tournament, upset Georgia, and then upset the host Texas A&M and won their 6th straight SEC title. So Auburn is peaking at the right time here for the national championship.
I'm glad you bring that up because somewhere in that losing streak, I don't know if it was after the 5th loss or if it was before that, but I remember texting you after reading one of the things you put up at auburndaily.com. And I'm like, is Auburn Equestrian, like, are we not good anymore? Like what happened? You're like, no, I think this is a good team. They're just still figuring things out. And clearly they have.
Yes. Basically, I think what we've seen is there's a bit of a learning curve. Again, first year head coach, she has a lot of experience, but she has to step into that full role where she is the decision maker on everything, and there's going to be some growing pains there. Her 2 top assistant coaches are both fairly new. One has 1 year of experience. The other is fresh out of college. All of them rode for Auburn, so that's pretty much why they've assembled that coaching staff, is because everybody has come up through the Greg Williams system. Everybody is on the same page because basically there are no other pages. They only know one way of doing things, and that's the Auburn way. So, yeah, there was a point there where they picked up a lot of losses, and maybe there were some rumblings. But I tell you, winning the SEC tournament again, that answers a lot of questions.
So Auburn goes into this NCEA College Equestrian National Championship as a 3 seed. They take on Oklahoma State in the first round. What should we expect from this matchup?
Well, Oklahoma State is good. They should probably be seeded a little bit higher. They had a rough patch in the middle of their season as well, just like Auburn did, and then they turned things around late, and they won the Big 12 tournament. They upset number 1 TCU to do that, so they are red hot right now as well, just like Auburn is. How they sort of stack up against one another, Auburn's strengths are really fences and horsemanship, 2 of the 4 events. And for Oklahoma State, their strengths are fences and flats. So really this is going to be, we're going to get a mix of who can really capitalize on their strengths and who can take points away from that other team's strength. So if Auburn rides well and limits their own mistakes, just like they did in the SEC tournament, then they should be able to get past Oklahoma State.
So when you look at this entire field, seeds 1 through 8, who are the teams that you say, okay, yes, this team could win a national championship?
Well, really, there's a lot of parity this year. Any of the top, I would say, 6 teams could legitimately win 3 days in a row. And that's the thing. You've got to win 3 days in a row. You can have one good day, but if you have one bad day, you're out. And so the top 6 teams are really capable of that, and Auburn, of course, is one of those. So at number 3, Auburn is a contender. We would expect Auburn to probably get into the second round where they would face another contender, most likely SMU. They're the number 2 team, and they have really had Auburn's number here lately. The last 5 times these teams have met, SMU and Auburn, SMU has won 4 of those times. So you could look at that and say, yeah, maybe Auburn would love it if South Carolina could get that upset. But you know what? It's a tournament. You've got to beat good teams if you want to be the national champion. And I think Auburn is saying, well, you know what? Maybe we're due. You know, we haven't won in the last couple of times against SMU. Maybe we're due. Another team that's a contender is obviously #1 overall TCU. Now they have stumbled a little bit here in the last month. They were undefeated right up until the very end. They went on the road to SMU and lost, and then they lost in the final of the Big 12 tournament. And below those teams is probably Texas A&M and Georgia. They face each other in the first round. Whichever team wins that is going to be trouble for TCU. So they're in the mix as well.
Sure. So you talked about Auburn or whoever's going to make a run and win this thing. They've got to do it in back-to-back days. In other sports, Auburn Elvis, like we saw this kind of trend with Auburn basketball this year. Depth was a big talking point. From a roster construction standpoint in the sport of college equestrian, how does that play out, and how is Auburn built to perform in back-to-back days?
Well, I'll say first off, Yale is not in this tournament, so
Thank
right there
goodness.
that should make Auburn fans really excited. There is no Yale team; they don't ride college equestrian. But I'll say, as far as depth, Auburn stacks up with any of the top teams. You could point to certain matchups and say, okay, maybe TCU is a favorite if you look at if you have a lot of emphasis on this particular event or that. SMU has a lot of talent as well, but Auburn is right there in the mix. Auburn is getting it done with a mix of talent and just limiting mistakes. So there's nobody out there that Auburn is afraid of from a talent standpoint. It really is about who shows up that day and puts out their best rides.
Sure. Auburn Elvis, for the Auburn fans that are saying, okay, this is awesome. Maybe I haven't really followed this team closely throughout the year, but now that they're here in the biggest tournament of the year for this sport, I want to follow them. Give us a few names to kind of make sure that we are familiar with as we kind of follow this team this week.
Yeah, I would say Ava Stearns. She's a graduate over in the jumping seat. She rides both of the jumping seat events. She's one to watch. Sophie Steckbeck, she's really good. Ellie Ferrigno as well. She's a senior. We got a lot of seniors on the jumping seat side. Over in the western side, Alexa Twardoff's really good. Let's see, Olivia Marino is a name to watch out for Auburn to get some points. And Kate Buchanan, I would say, also has a really good shot at getting a point here.
All right, give us your prediction. How do you see this tournament going, Auburn Elvis?
Well, I try to go by the stats and not go based off of just what I want to happen.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, Oklahoma State matches up pretty well against Auburn. I would not be shocked if that ends up a 9-9 tie with Auburn winning in the tiebreaker. I think that one could be very close. I expect Auburn to, if they do advance, to face SMU. And actually, Auburn matches up better with SMU today than they did even a month ago. They've gotten some really good performances, particularly out of reining and flat, whereas that used to be Auburn's Achilles heel. Now it's not so much. So I could see Auburn upsetting SMU and possibly making it to the title. And if they get there, it probably is going to be either TCU or the winner of the Georgia Texas A&M quarterfinal. So, and sure. Auburn, we know Auburn matches up against those teams, and TCU they haven't faced in a while, so don't know what we'll get there. So that would be really nice to see a clash of titans there.
Yeah, and you'll be able to see all of the analysis from Auburn Elvis at auburndaily.com. Have a great week down there, and we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Zach. Thank you very much.